let's bring in Emmanuel Okaz Wike, who is the president, Nigerian Institution of Estate Surveyors and Valuers. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm almost tempted to ask exactly what, the job of an estate surveyor and valuer is, so that, Nigerians can actually get it clear. You might want to start there. Then, estate surveyors came up with a 10-year report recently, highlighting some of the reasons why buildings collapse and, solutions. Maybe we should begin with that.
Okay, thank you very much for having me, and thank you, viewers. First of all, let me congratulate our newly inducted estate surveyors and valuers, and to say that we have a lot of responsibility in the development of Nigeria on the economic level, on the economic sector. Now, an estate surveyor and valuer is that person that had been registered and is a member of the Nigerian Institute of Estate Surveyors and Valuers and registered to practice the profession of estate surveying and valuation in Nigeria by the Estate Surveyors and Valuer Registration Board of Nigeria. That is the person that can practice estate surveying and valuation in Nigeria. And our responsibilities or our services are, one, we are into valuation for several purposes. One, you can carry out valuation for sale of properties, you can carry out valuation for insurance, you can carry out valuation for mortgage, you can carry out valuation for asset declaration, you can carry out valuation also for mergers and acquisition. Then we also are into facility management, property management, acquisition for compensation by government, for compensation for public purpose where government pay compensation. We are also into auctioneering, which is part of estate agency. These are some of the things that we do. What we have done recently is for us to go into specialization. Before now, we call ourselves Jack of all trade and Master of all. But we find out that globally that does not work anymore. So we try as much as possible to do specialization. And we have about 15 professional groups in which you can decide to specialize in any of these professional groups, some of which I have already mentioned. Now, when you talk about building collapse has been a very big menace in Nigeria. And at our level, what we as estate surveyors and valuers are actually looking at is the colossal sum of money that have lost in this menace that we have found ourselves. Now, there are several reasons for building collapse, and I wouldn't want to go into so much detail because I'm aware that there is a panel set up by the Lagos State government to actually go into why those should be done. We have made our position known, and we can be able to mention one or two things that we think.
All right. Would like you to do that eventually.
Let me just
no problem. We are here.
Comment here. It looks to me like it's only when buildings collapse that we start to hear professional bodies like yours begin what I will call postulating. Something of the sort of medicine after death. Why not before?
Well, it's only when you have a problem that people begin to know that there is an issue.
But there's something you call prevention is better than cure.
That's what I'm saying. When something is done correctly, nobody cares. It's only when something is done wrongly and there is a problem that people will now know, oh, this person has done this thing wrongly. There's a lot of high-rise building in Lagos that have existed for more than 20, 30 years. Nobody has complained. But this one is just the one that happened on 1st of November 2021. The whole world have now seen that there is a problem on the collapse. So what is the problem? Yes. Well, we have other structures. We have two other structures close to the one that collapsed that are still standing. Assuming they have finished this structure and is occupied either by the owner or by the investors, nobody will know that there is problem, because we know that there is a problem now. The whole world is now looking.
And that's exactly why we're having this discussion.
That's even where I wanted to talk about.
What are those problems?
Hold on, Ngozi. Yeah. You're not even addressed the issue. Yeah, we know there's a problem when it happens. So, and then estate surveyors like you begin to talk about it. Yeah. So I'm saying, or we're saying, what have you been doing so these things don't happen?
Yes, we are an advocate body. The professional groups, the professional bodies are advocate groups. And what we do is to advise the government and advise our clients. And remember that since we are professionals, we have our limits to what you can do. Let me give you an instance. Even in the collapse building, the engineer that started this particular building, we all know what happened. The initial engineer wrote a letter to say, look, if you are going to be above so level of law, count me out. I'm not going to be part of it. And he exonerated himself because he's a professional. Now, if the client continues, he's doing so at his own peril. So as a professional body, our duty is advocacy. And that is what we are doing for you to carry out projects, for you to carry out development on real estate. Get the professionals that are involved in environment and in the built-up sector to carry out those projects for you. Do not allow people who are not professionals to go into it. That does not mean that we don't have professionals that do negligent job. We have. Okay. And our responsibility is not to shade anybody for what he has done. Our responsibility is to discipline the person.
What kind of penalties or disciplinary action do you take when a professional,
yes,
cuts corners? But I want you to address this 10-year report that estate surveyors came up with, like I mentioned earlier. I mean, some issues were pointed out, building codes rendered ineffective for lack of political will, you know, and all of that. I want you to address that for us so that it's clear,
yes,
you know, to the viewer why buildings come down. And we're not just talking about the one that happened in Lagos.
There are several reasons why you have building collapse. One is natural, if there is a natural disaster. So we don't go into that because that is natural disaster. What we are concentrating on is on the man-made aspect. And one is on the structural failure. And when you talk about the structural failure, you are talking about those materials or those professionals that are involved in that structural design that at the end of the day did not follow specification. There's every tendency that there will be problem in that kind of design. Number two is the location of the property. Now, when you have a property that is a high-rise building, instead of using a pipe foundation or raft foundation, you are using a street foundation. There's every tendency there is problem. So who are the people that are involved in all this? Is the professionals. One is the architect, two is the quantity surveyor, number three is the builder, number four is the engineer, either the civil engineer or the electrical engineer or the structural engineer. Then you also have the estate surveyor and valuer that is involved, because we come in on the financial side. Now we are here to we are not involved in the physical structure, because we are not builders, but we are involved in the financial aspect of the loss. Now you can imagine how much money that has been lost in that. So our position is, how do we reduce this? Now there is a building code that the federal government is trying to launch. Now, what we are advising is that this building code should be domesticated by the different states, because what is happening in Lagos might not be what is happening in my state, Rivers State. What the topography of Lagos might not be the same in Sokoto. So the people of Sokoto State, the governor of Sokoto, the government of Sokoto State should be able to know what are the peculiarity of their environment and try as much as possible to domesticate that building code to suit their own environment. The last one, sir, is about professionalism. Now, we know that there are people who are involved in this sector. We need to identify those, and if any professional is found negligent, it should be prosecuted.
All right, I'll leave it there. We wish you had more time to address some other issues, but thank you so much, Emmanuel Okas Wike, the president, Nigeria Institution of Estate Surveyors and Valuers.